Mrs. Peggy Bonsall. Peggy, thank you for inviting me and Deb Doc Theater and everyone here to hear your story of one of the most devastating weather events in the history of the United States. Back on June 27th, 1957, Hurricane Audrey came a little bit faster than people expected and arrived in Cameron Parish, and you were there. How old were you at that time?
I was 13 and a half.
Okay. And this, they're in Cameron Parish. You have Cameron, you have Creole, Grand Chenier, Oak Grove. Where were you living at that time?
We were actually living in the town of Cameron. We had lived in Creole for a while, and my stepfather, Albert Richard, built the house in Cameron. So our house was only 4 months old.
On June 27th, 1957, 4 months. How was it afterward? The house,
it was completely gone. We heard reports that when the water and the wind hit the house, it just
disintegrated. Or okay. And you weren't alone. There were so many houses that happened to. And but let's, before we get to the storm, let's learn a little bit about what your childhood there. What before Audrey, what did you enjoy doing?
Well, my friends from school. We, at South Cameron High School, we were tight-knit. You had a friend everywhere, and you had better friends than most, some little groups, but I didn't find that South Cameron High School was cliquish, or if you didn't fit in, everybody loved everybody. And for summers, even on weekends, we went dancing at Sweeney's nightclub.
Where was Sweeney's? Was that in Cameron too?
It was in Creole. No, Sweeney's, let me correct myself. Sweeney's was in Cameron. It was Savoy's in Creole.
Gotcha.
So
okay.
It was open. We weren't supposed to go to Sweeney's.
I was going to say, 13 years old.
Yeah, we weren't supposed to go there.
Okay.
And probably at 13 and a half I didn't, but maybe when I was 16 and 17 I did,
yes,
like most of my friends. But Savoy's, that was the club. That was the place to be.
Did they have live music, or was it a jukebox?
The best I remember, they might have had both. Because, my memory, I wasn't looking for the music, I was looking at boys. I can't remember.
Yes. That's so good.
And then Grand Chenier Park. Some of us would ski. I tried it, but I couldn't, I didn't like it. And but we would hang out at the park, and everybody drinks beer down there, so we had our beer, we had our fun. Holly Beach was the place to be.
Yes.
It was so much fun growing up in Cameron Parish.
And your ancestry, what is your maiden name?
Rains. R-A-I-N-S.
Do you know the ethnicity of that? I know there was a lot of Cajuns in that area, but Rains doesn't sound...
I was born in Pleasant Hill, Louisiana.
There we go, okay.
And my ancestors, Ireland, England, Scotland, yeah. Well, I consider myself a Cajun since I've been here for so long.
Yes, I told you. Yes.
I'm a transplant.
That's wonderful.
My husband, Charles, he's remembered every day. Every day. His memory will never go away. He was a great horseman, cattleman. He loved his animals. I wish Charles was here to tell you his Audrey story, because his was, like I said, Charles, we all have the same experience, but in different expressions. We all experience something different. Yes. Even though the storm affected every one of us in a similar way, we all have our horror stories.
Yes. And that's why we're doing this, to preserve history, to let everyone for generations know this is what happened on June 27th, 1957, and just, not only for your family, but everyone.
Well, the young ones coming up, they hear about Audrey.
Right.
We actually heard as children about the 1919 hurricane.
Yes.
There used to be orange orchards there everywhere.
In Cameron.
In Cameron Parish, Chenier Pardue, Little Chenier. Charles would tell me about it, and his great grandfather, I don't know how many greats, but Villiers Terrio was one of the founders of Chenier Pardue, Little Chenier, and that's his brand. VT is Charles's brand, and that's his grandfather's brand. But the Cameron Parish has always been a great resource.
Yes.
But then it was better back in the 1900s.
Of course, yes.
And as the
So
storms
much damage
hit,
came through,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
as the storms hit,
It took a little bit.
it took a
away.
little bit away from it. But in 1956, 57, Cameron Parish was the place to be because of the love that
Like you were saying,
that's in that
community,
parish.
yes,
and we all we supported each other. We stuck together.
yeah.
And even if you move away, you still have that connection.
Yes.
You're still, you might not talk every day,
Right.
but when you do resume your conversations, you pick up where you
Right
left
where
off.
You left off.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's just the love that you have for each other.
That's wonderful. That's a great, I think, a picture of what life and what living in that time was like. So thank you for sharing that part. And
Our life in Cameron was good. My stepfather was a very good man.
nice.
And the things that we went through, which I will get to later, is a learning lesson, and I'll touch on that in just a little bit. But our life was good. Shirley and I were excited to go to school every day. You know how you dread to go to school sometimes?
Yes, lots of people.
We enjoyed it.
Yes.
Being with friends,
Family.
and not only the friends, the teachers.
Yes.
The teachers were a big part of what made South Cameron High School,
Yes.
or
Yes.
South Cameron Elementary.
Yeah.
The teachers. And Lady Richard was my 7th grade teacher, one of the most kindest and smartest ladies that you will ever run across.
That's wonderful.
She was a wonderful teacher, but she was a wonderful person. And Mr. Morris, Bill Morris, he taught us, and he would be standing at the room. I told him later on in years, I said, Bill, do you remember standing at the door waiting for your students to come in? And now sometimes the teachers don't even get up and come to the door.
Right. Yeah.
But I do that for my class. I substitute at Bell City
Nice. Yes.
High School.
And you're there at the door.
I'm
just like Mr.
at. It was
Morris.
good training.
That's
It was
wonderful.
good training, and it stuck in my mind. It has been in my head. You greet your students as they come in the door.
That is wonderful. What a great memory. And well, let's move a little bit closer to the event. And what do you remember about the preparation for Audrey? Do you remember, being told, okay, we have a hurricane coming. What do we need to do? Do you remember anything about preparing for her?
I do. Back then, technology was kind of slim to none, and it wasn't. I can't remember my parents being frightened. We heard about the storm, and I remember my stepfather boarding up the windows, which that's what you do when a hurricane comes.
Yes.
You're protecting your windows, and I don't remember any excited, hurry up, anticipation of being wiped out right now.
Yes.
We knew that's my first hurricane. And, a lot of people in Cameron Parish, that might have been their first. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I do remember packing, Mom and Albert telling us to get our clothes together. We thought we were going away for a little while.
Yes.
Just pack what you need.
A couple of clothes.
Yeah, just get some clothes and
Yes.
a
little weekend.
little
Just
weekend trip. And we left Cameron on Wednesday. It might have been that afternoon, I don't remember, because we were preparing. We went to East Creole to my grandparents' home, which is my stepfather's parents, and we were going to spend the night and get up the next morning and come into Lake Charles. We got to Creole, East Creole. We talked. I could remember the adults talking, concerns about what was going to happen. We're going to get up, we're going to leave. My grandparents were up in age, and then like Aunt and Uncle, Aunt Ina and Uncle Orrin came over. That was my stepfather's sister and her husband. And then an elderly aunt and uncle came. My cousin Butler Boudreaux was there, and my brother, my sister Shirley, my mom, and Albert. So there were 16 of us there.
In this home?
In this home. Well, we got there Wednesday. I'm sure Grandma and Grandpa was packing. Everybody was packing. And Thursday morning, we thought the storm was going to hit Friday.
Right.
So Thursday morning, we got up, and the wind, it was howling. It was awful. I've heard high winds before, but this was not the normal. It was not normal. So, in looking out, trying to decide, are we going to try, the adults were trying to, are we going to fight this wind? Can we make it to Lake Charles? And everybody was saying, look. And we ran to the windows, the doors, and I can see it right now in my mind, the waves, the water coming. And where's it going? Right to you. So I do remember the adult men taking, where they found this, I don't know. They might have ran out to the barn, but they got axes. They cut holes in the floor. They knocked out all the windows. And I mean, you're talking about thinking in a crisis like this. And one by one, as the water was coming in to the house, they lifted us into the attic. And snakes around the trees. You couldn't even see the tree for the snakes. And nutria rats, cattle trying to survive. And that night, all night long, all you heard was wind, and the water beating coming into the attic. And I could hear either my uncle, my grandfather, my stepdad, somebody hammering, trying to keep the water out, putting boards up, and to me, they were prepared. Because where did you get the hammer? Where did you get the nail? But they were prepared. And the one part, the east part of the house, I do remember washed away, but we were still intact. The other part of the house was intact, and we were in the attic. There was a lot of praying going on. I could hear women, whether I heard my mother, I know I heard other women calling for their mothers. Mama, please help me. Please help us. And what could you do? All you could do was hide. Just try to hide and find a safe place and pray. And we finally, it seemed like it lasted for hours and days and hours. But then the wind got real, it stopped. And it was eerie.
Yes, I can imagine.
It was eerie. And one of the men, maybe two or three of them, said, we're going to see what's going on. There was nothing around us but water. Nothing. For miles, all you could see.
The Gulf moved.
Yeah, the Gulf moved in.
You were in basically
Yeah, we were in the Gulf of Mexico. I don't know really. I was trying to think, did we stay another night in the attic or did we try to get out? It's so vague.
Yes.
I don't remember what day we got out. But when we did get out, my grandmother and my elderly aunt, they couldn't walk in that water.
Of course.
They could not
Yes.
walk in that water.
Yes.
So the men, this is incredible. With God's help, I think God had a hand in our survival. Those wonderful men took tires off the cars and they built a raft. They built a raft.
With just tires, or did they have other?
I can remember it was like, you know how, like in the olden days, they would put blankets, maybe and make a gurney or
Yes,
some sort.
Yes.
I don't remember if it had boards on it, but they had
But
those.
they used the
It was
tires
floating.
from the vehicles.
Yes.
And well, yes. I mean.
I don't know if they took them off the vehicles or my grandfather had old tires laying around
Possible. Yes.
without the rim.
Absolutely.
But they built that for my grandmother and my aunt. And I can remember that us it was floating. And we were walking in water up to here.
Goodness.
It was over my shoulders. And at times, sometimes you had to just
had
pick
to-
up
yes,
your head
yes.
and look to the sky so you wouldn't drown.
Yes.
And
Where were y'all going when you were out in the water, and where were they taking you?
the men, we would go west
Yes.
toward
Yes.
Creo, the
Right.
town of
Yes.
Creo.
Yes.
So we found the road. I mean, in your mind, you know where you're at, but then when you have water,
Right.
you're not.
All the markings are.
They're gone.
Under the water. Yes, you can't see.
They're
them.
gone.
So yes.
We made it to the highway, East Creo Highway,
Good.
and walking towards Creo, we headed west. I don't know how long we walked.
It was all underwater.
It was all
You walked
underwater.
underwater.
You didn't know if there was alligator, snakes, or
Right,
whatever was
right.
going to get you.
Yes.
Fearful.
All of you.
All of us.
16, I
All
guess.
16 of us, with the elderly on the raft. Yes.
Amazing.
We heard, before we saw it, we heard some machinery. And it turned, well, I'm sure there was helicopters flying around and everything, but we heard something. And within eyesight, we saw Army duck. The Army duck was
Yes,
on its way,
yes.
not just to pick
Now,
us
for
up.
people that don't know, that they think of duck as a bird. This
Yeah,
is a boat, right?
it's a boat. It's
yes.
a aquarium. It's a aqua boat.
Okay.
You can go in the water with it. Also land.
Yes.
They picked us up.
And all of you could fit in this.
Mhm.
In this.
Oh, it's
duck.
huge.
Okay.
Yeah, it was huge.
Yeah.
I don't remember who else was in there.
Okay.
You know, after all these years, some things is
Oh, I know.
just a blur.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
It's like a nightmare that won't go away.
Yes.
I don't know if we picked up anybody else. I can remember getting to Creo
Yeah.
and the people there, the machinery there, the ducks, Army ducks to pick up people, helicopters flying.
Now, when you got to Creole, was it underwater also?
Yes.
Where were you? Did they have a two-story place where you were sitting, or were you in the duck?
We were in the duck. We never got out of the duck.
Gotcha.
And see the canal, there's a canal there in Creo.
Right. Yeah.
So the best
Right
of,
along the highway.
yes.
Yes.
And the best of my recollection, everything was
That's
underwater.
where- okay.
So
Gotcha.
we started north toward
Okay.
Lake Charles.
Yes.
And we, thankfully, we never did see any people that had perished,
That's okay.
but there was plenty of cattle.
That's what I heard
Yeah.
also.
Oh,
yes.
cattle hanging over fences. They tried to get over the fences,
Yes.
on the roads, everywhere. Everywhere you looked was cattle. That was one of
That's such a
their
shame.
resources.
Yeah.
So, and we made it to the McNeese Rodeo Arena,
Right. Yes.
and
The Red Cross was there. I
the Red
believe.
Cross was there.
Yes.
which everybody was so helpful, so good to us. And I remember the Red Cross bringing in clothes, cots. Cots were everywhere in the arena. I can remember Mama laying on one of the cots, and we were maybe sitting at her feet or something. We're scared.
Yes. Yes.
You know, we're scared.
Yes.
And I know my stepfather was taking care of business, trying to get us a house, which the Red Cross did find us a house.
Nice.
In Lake Charles. Lake Charles. We couldn't go back to Cameron.
Right.
Could not.
Yes. Yeah.
And they had provided clothes. I can remember a group of people, a large group of us, going through clothes, trying to find something to wear. We did get a house in Lake Charles, and my mom and dad would get on a plane every day, 5 days a week, and fly to the Menhaden plant, the Poggy plant, to work. And it wasn't immediately after the storm, but for like a month or two, because it was probably 3 to 6 months before we were able to even get back down there.
Yes.
And I can't even
remember them flying.
Yes, I remember them leaving, because we were old enough to stay by ourselves.
Right.
I don't know what color the house was. I just know that we had a roof over our head. And I think on weekends we would try to go down there and see what we could do. And then in '58 we moved back to Cameron.
Wow.
My stepfather had built us a larger house, and we were able to go back to Cameron.
Was it in the same place?
Same place.
Location
Yes, same location. Yes.
That's amazing.
And up until Hurricane Rita in 2005, that house was still there. That house was still there.
Well built.
Yeah. I can remember them building the house. I can remember the foundation, then the building the house, and then the walls going up and everything.
So you saw the process.
Yeah, saw the process.
Wow.
And you know, we lost classmates.
Yes.
We lost people that was close to us. And it's just devastating. And there'll never be a correct number of perished people. They said 431, 500.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
but, you know, only God knows that number.
Right, yes.
Yeah, only God knows that number.
Yes, yeah.
But, you know, you can, I mean, common sense tells you this one's not here, that one's not there.
Right, yeah.
You know.
So
but then people perish elsewhere, too.
Right, yes, that's right.
So
yes.
we just don't know the correct number.
Yeah.
We have our school albums. I did save my school albums. There's some dedicated to some that were perished because they were classmates. And but yes, they're in our memories forever.
Yeah, very much.
Well, Cameron was built back after Audrey. At the time, Charles, you don't realize that you've learned a lesson. You're scared. You're frightened as to what's going to happen next, the uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen. Am I ever going to get back to my Cameron Parish that we love so much? But in years to come, you learn that made you a better person. You're a stronger person. You're stronger than you realize. And with that knowledge, going through disasters, I'm not just going to say hurricanes, but going through disasters, you learned what your ancestors did. From watching my stepfather, my grandfather, my uncle, and all of them putting holes in the floor. I mean,
that's amazing.
And knocking out the windows.
Right.
Okay, I know now what to do.
Yeah.
But for that experience going through Hurricane Audrey, you learn survival in ways that you never thought of before. And over the years, I could do things for myself. I didn't have to depend, because you learn from your mistakes and learn to help yourself. And I have to throw this in there. We didn't have tablets and we didn't have phones. We sat and listened to the old people talk.
Yes.
We sat and listened. We played hard. We rode horses. But when it was evening time, you listened. If people watch this documentary, don't just watch it. Listen. Don't just watch it. Listen and look. Pain, a lot of pain went through that storm. Pain that we'll never get rid of. It's something that's embedded in your memory, in your heart. It'll never go away. We went on. We created our lives. But I want to say that I think everybody in Cameron Parish, including me and Charles as kids, gained strength, integrity, better morals, and faith in God.
Amen.
Amen.